Marcus, a 68-year-old retired electrician from Cleveland, spent a full week at sea in a windowless inside cabin. 3 doors down, a balcony cabin sailed completely empty the entire time. Nobody offered it, nobody mentioned it. He only learned the truth from a steward when the cruise was already over. In 30 years running guest services aboard cruise ships, I watched that happen on every single sailing. Free upgrades, free cabin swaps, free amenities, unclaimed, cruise after cruise. Not because the crew wouldn't give them, because nobody ever told the passenger the words to ask. I'm Thomas Ashford, 30 years as a hotel director at sea, cabins, dining, upgrades, and every complaint that came through my office door. Now that I don't have an employer to protect, I can tell you what active crew members can't. Here's why none of this gets said out loud. A cruise line makes nothing extra by telling you what's free. Silence costs them nothing. That's the whole calculation. By the end of this, you'll know all 9, with the exact words that make each one easy to ask for. I'll give you the one sentence that would have put Marcus in that balcony on the very first night. And number 1 is the one that keeps paying you back on every cruise after this one. Stay with me for that. It starts at the terminal. Number 9, priority embarkation. And the terminal staff will never put it on a sign. You don't need a wheelchair, you don't need a doctor's note. If walking that gangway with a carry-on takes a moment longer than it used to, you qualify. Eleanor, a 68-year-old retired librarian from Sacramento, watched 5 priority groups board ahead of her, cruise after cruise, until a friend gave her one simple sentence. She's boarded with the first wave ever since. Walk to the pierside guest services desk before general boarding opens and say this: I'd appreciate a little extra time to board if that's okay. Stay with me because the cabin you booked may not be the cabin you have to keep. Number 8, the quiet cabin reassignment window. In the first 6 hours after embarkation, guest services has quiet authority to move passengers into unsold cabins. They're balancing the ship anyway. Robert, a 71-year-old retired accountant from Atlanta, had skipped the ocean view because it ran $80 more per night. Right after the muster drill, he asked softly if any had stayed empty. 10 minutes later, he had a new key card. Free. Go within the first 2 hours, once the rush dies down, and say this: if any unsold cabins have opened up, I'd be grateful for a look. Number 7. What the deck pantry is quietly holding back. The snack basket your steward stocks is about 1/3 of what's actually available. Extra fruit, cookies, sandwiches, bottled water. Stewards can bring more to any cabin that asks. They won't announce it, but they'll almost always say yes. Helen, a 74-year-old retired social worker from Minneapolis, mentioned the cookies weren't quite enough on a 14-day sailing. 20 minutes later, a fruit plate, more cookies, 2 bottles of water. Ask quietly in the corridor. Say this: if there's anything extra in the pantry, I'd love something to keep in the cabin. Number 6. The empty cabin nobody tells you about, the one I promised you. After sail away, once no-shows are confirmed, several cabins per deck will sail completely empty for the entire week. No announcement is ever made. The crew assumes anyone who wants a better cabin will ask. Guests assume moving isn't allowed. Both sides stay quiet, and the cabins sit wasted. That is exactly the week Marcus lost. A balcony 3 doors down, empty from the first night to the last. Visit guest services about 3 hours after the ship leaves port. Ask for a small step up, never the best available. Say this: if any cabin stayed empty after sail away, I'd be grateful for a small upgrade. Said on the first evening, that sentence would have changed his entire week. And if cabins sit empty after sail away, the premium ones may be sitting empty too. Number 5, the balcony that sails empty. Balconies sell for $250 to $600 more than ocean view. When they don't sell by sail away, cruise lines often quietly release them to guests who simply ask. An empty balcony earns them nothing. A happy lifetime customer does. Susan, a 70-year-old retired bank manager from Charlotte, booked interior cabins for 9 straight cruises before she finally asked whether any unsold balconies were still on the manifest. The agent handed her a new keycard. 9 cruises of silence, 1 conversation. Say this: if any unsold balconies are still open, I'd love one. And I'll be honest with you, on a fully booked sailing, the answer is no. Take that no with a smile. The ask cost you nothing, and the crew remembers grace. Number 4, the bridge tour nobody mentions. It's not on the daily program and it's not in the brochure, but most major lines, Princess, Holland America, Celebrity, Cunard, quietly take small groups up to the bridge when a guest politely asks, especially on calm sea days. George, a 73-year-old retired postal worker from Philadelphia, cruised for 30 years without ever stepping on a bridge. He asked on day 2 of an Alaska sailing, and 2 days later he was standing next to the captain, looking out at glaciers. The highlight of his cruising life. Ask on day 2 or 3 and say this: if there's any informal bridge visit happening this week, I'd be grateful to be considered. Number 3, the minibar that becomes a medical fridge. If you travel with medication that needs to stay cold, insulin, eye drops, blood thinners, your steward is trained to clear the entire minibar on request and refrigerate it free of charge. The fridge becomes yours for the week. Mary, a 71-year-old retired teacher from Denver, quietly mentioned her insulin on day 1. Within the hour, the minibar was cleared, a thermometer verified the temperature, and her steward checked on her every morning after. The calmest week of cruising she'd ever had. Ask on embarkation evening. Say this: I'll be storing medication that needs refrigeration. Could the minibar be cleared? Number 2, the cabin that runs cold, fixed cabin by cabin. Most guests reach for an extra blanket and suffer through it cruise after cruise. But stewards can submit engineering requests to adjust the thermostat for your specific cabin on most modern ships. Suite guests get this done without asking twice. Inside cabin guests get it too, if they ask. James, a 69-year-old retired architect from Phoenix, went to bed cold on every cruise for a decade until he finally mentioned it to his steward. By turndown that night, the cabin was warm. Wait until day 2. Be specific and say this: our cabin runs a bit cool at night. Would a small adjustment be possible? And now, number 1, the one I told you to stay for. The only item on this list that gets more valuable every single time you sail. Number 1, the commendation that follows you. Every major cruise line has a guest commendation program. A short note praising a crew member by name goes directly into their permanent record. 2 minutes, costs nothing. And here's what most seniors never consider. Crew rotate through the same fleet, and they remember the guests who wrote for them. Sail that line again, and that same steward or maitre d' may be on your ship, and the treatment is transformed. James, the retired architect from Phoenix, started writing one after every kind sailing. 2 voyages later, a head waiter crossed a princess dining room to tell him, "I remember you. Thank you for that note about my team." 10 days treated like a returning friend. Get the name from the badge, write 3 or 4 warm sentences on the cruise line's website when you're home, and before you leave the ship, say this directly to them: "I'd love your name. I'm going to write a commendation about you." None of this costs a single dollar. The only difference between the passengers who receive these and the ones who don't is knowing the words, and now you have them. Because here's the truth underneath it all. The crew wants to say yes. I spent 30 years watching them want to say yes. These words aren't a trick, they're how you let them. So tell me in the comments, which of these 9 did you not know? Drop the number. I read every single one. And subscribe so the next one reaches you before your next sailing. Next time, the one cabin location I warned my own family never to book. On the deck plan, it looks perfect. After 30 years at sea, I'll tell you exactly why the crew avoids it. Share this with someone who has a cruise coming up. It may be the best thing they hear before they board.